Good evening. It is Monday, November 4th, on the eve of the most important election of our lives for the third election straight. My name is John George, and you're listening to the Biased Media Company podcast. With me today are Emma McGaw and Slade Wright. And, well, as we get into it now, on the eve of this the end of this tumultuous election season, hopefully the end, although I don't think anybody anticipates getting results election night now that we're just dragging it out.
Yeah, I think
How
that's
are we
about
all
over.
feeling? How are we all feeling about it?
I mean, the stakes are obviously incredibly high. I'm feeling the best about it I have this entire election cycle, though.
Yeah, me too.
Really? I think that's an interesting take, because for me personally, I think the hype really peaked right before they stopped letting Walz say how weird everybody was.
Yeah,
Like, I
maybe
feel
that
like
was
that
maybe that.
was for me, that was peak. But I think, honestly, between you, me, and all of our dear listeners, especially the beautiful ones, I say
All our
listen, it's
listeners
the
are
end of the world,
beautiful.
right? All of them are, for different reasons, but some of them more than others. And they know who they are. I think that, the Selzar poll that came out showing Iowa going hard for Harris is more than likely what election night's going to look like. I think that the polling has been bad this cycle. I think that abortion is a much bigger issue for women, enough to turn the tide, and I think that polling has failed to reflect that and how much of a force women are going to be this election cycle. And I'm actually
Yeah,
feeling fairly confident that this is going to go very decisively for Harris. It's going to be close in the swing states, of course. I don't know if we're going to hold on to Georgia, but the Midwestern states that we need, Pennsylvania, Michigan, I think we're going to have those. And I think tomorrow night we're going to get at least a brief visage of normalcy. As much as I hate that word and I hate that idea, I think we're going to see. I think our biggest concerns are what come after, as we near January 6th
Yes.
again, but we can get into that a little bit more later.
yeah,
Also, Nate Silver. This is my I hate Nate Silver box, because I think that man, he's done horrific harm to the morale of your average voter with his obnoxious polling habits. And I think, because his model just today, I think, on November 4th, in the year of our Lord 2024, just finally went towards a positive outcome for Harris. Which I
yeah.
think,
So Nate Silver, editor in chief of 538.
former, he's no longer part of 538. He was a founder, but he has since left after
True.
selling 538 to
Yeah,
ABC. But he did take the rights to his statistical model with him, which
right.
is odd.
Um. Well, so he's kind of been like the de facto polling guru in this country for a while now.
Right, since 2012.
Yeah. And he's had the polls aggressively in the middle this entire time. I think I just saw I think the poll before this one was released, he had like every single swing state as like a virtual tie, like just obnoxiously in the middle. And I think there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about what's going on there. Him, along with a lot of other pollsters, might be hedging their bets. I think that they're trying to factor in the Trump vote that's been hard to account for in 2016 and 2020, which is why the polls have been so close. Maybe there's some truth to it. I think maybe they're overcounting. They're overcompensating. I think they're also worried about being wrong.
Hmm.
Um, but
They don't want to be wrong
some of
for
the
a third cycle.
yeah. But some of the best news in polling that's came out maybe this whole election cycle, as John referred to, is the Seltzer poll, the Des Moines Register in Iowa. This is a very reputable pollster.
Nate
She
Silver
focuses on
calls her the gold standard
yeah.
for reference.
She focuses on Iowa. She knows the state very well. She's had very accurate models in 2020 and 2016, and her poll showed +3 for Iowa for Kamala Harris, which is huge because that state went for, I think it was like 8 points or 9 points for Donald Trump in 2020. So a swing that big is massive. I mean, 12 points is absurd. And the big, so this, Kamala Harris could very well still lose Iowa, but it's less about Iowa and more about what that says for the rest of the country. That there was a swing that big, and the turnout is that big for Democrats, and that the women vote is going so largely to the Democrats. I think the women are going to save us.
I really hope so.
I hope so too. I think it's high time.
God, obviously as a woman, I should trust women, but based on the last couple elections and based on some of the anecdotal evidence, the women I've spoken to, I don't trust all women to vote in their favor. I hope so, and I would love to be proven wrong. I really would. But white women especially, I have seen, I wish I had the exact numbers, but I've seen a lot of tilt towards Trump, less than in the past elections, which is good.
Yeah, they voted for Trump in every election.
Yeah.
I think that the difference now this time is genuinely abortion rights. I think that is the linchpin issue for a large majority of the electorate. Even white women. I mean, like, we saw referendums in places like Kansas to keep reproductive rights, and women came out and advocated for themselves. And and while I do think there is something to be noted about the self-serving nature of white women coming out and voting, when it was their rights on the line specifically, any bit of help at any point is better than nothing at all.
Yeah.
And I think that this is really the biggest issue for most voters, especially women, especially white women, middle class, especially. I feel like abortion is the biggest issue, and I feel that simply for the fact that the Republicans have with Roe gone, they're going to go for they're going to vote to save it, and Harris represents the only avenue to do so.
Right.
We need to be thanking. We've been needing to thank Black women for carrying us in every single election for several decades.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. We owe them a tremendous amount of debt. I also think that, Native voters in places like Arizona are going to be absolutely crucial to this. We're going to have to save your asses again like we did in 2020. And, it really highlights the necessity of, in a modern democracy, of building a coalition. And the Republican Party has proven yet again that they can't do that. That they are ultimately, a very racist, very xenophobic, very insular group, and they will continue to shoot themselves in the foot to appeal to that base.
And they're leaning hard into it, especially this time around. Trump is shooting for Logan Paul interview. I think he did an interview with Joe Rogan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was on Rogan.
He's going for the dude bros. He knows that those are the people who he wants to vote for him. I'm that, as in past elections, they just don't show up to vote as much, or at least
Sorry, go ahead.
Or at least that they get some common sense and realize. The thing is, though, with the population he's targeting, is saying he's going to do good for them, they don't realize he's not for them. He's for the people like Elon Musk. He's not for the average working class person.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy that Trump has gotten this far while giving absolutely nothing to his base
Literally.
and promising nothing for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is the world that we live in. It doesn't make sense to me, but it's reality.
I spoke to someone recently. We were talking about the election and they asked who I was voting for. I asked who they were voting for. They're voting for Trump, and I asked them why. They said because they're starting up a business and they think that Trump is going to support that. And so I try not to get
Wow.
into debates.
Meanwhile, every other sentence Kamala Harris says is about small business. She is a
Literally,
small
that's what I
business.
said.
Her mother was a small business.
That's what I said. I said Harris is for small businesses, Trump is for already established big businesses. He only cares to make the wealthy wealthier, increase the wage gap, only help the people he thinks are going to support him. And obviously, he's mentioned attacking his political opponents, putting down people who don't agree with him. I can't understand it. If you're an educated voter, how can you vote for Trump? Unless you're Elon Musk. If you're Elon Musk, I get it. I get why you're voting for Trump. I understand it. But if you're the average person, if you are a working class American, if you're educated, I can't understand it.
I mean, especially when you look at, Trump wants to like go all in on tariffs. And people
Mhm.
Yeah.
don't understand how tariffs work. I believe
Literally,
we've
it's
had
infuriating.
I
I
don't
don't
know if
think
we've
he
had
understands
this.
how tariffs work either.
Right.
He
And so
clearly does not.
for those he doesn't. But for those of you who might be listening who don't understand how tariffs work, don't feel bad. Tariffs are like a very niche, very micro niche topic. But the general gist of it is that tariffs are not paid by the country you levy them against. It's the they're paid at ports of entry. So if you institute tariffs on goods coming in from China, Chinese firms are not paying those tariffs. The American firms that ship those goods into the country are, and they're going to pass those that cost off to the American firms that are buying, who are then going to pass those costs off to the American consumer. That's how
Yeah.
tariffs work.
Yeah,
And
so the
people
cost of
Trump is
goods increase.
dramatically,
Mhm.
the cost of everything is going to shoot up much worse than inflation ever was. It will be
Yeah,
on,
and
like
Trump is
on an
advocating for
inflation of
these across the board. It's actually insane that like he would ever even float this idea in the first place.
Well,
right,
because he
like
doesn't know how
Like
it works.
this party of like economic responsibility. I don't know how his handlers let him do this though.
I know, because this would be suicide. It's such bad policy that it would be political suicide to advocate for it, because he has this reputation as a businessman, and somebody who can make deals, people are willing to accept it, even though it's complete and utter BS.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's absurd. I can't believe like how vibes based this election is. Maybe
Oh
they've
my
all
god.
been vibes based. Maybe that's like the real
It kind of is. That's how politicians work. They try to make you like their personality. Like, when you get one of those flyers or whatever in the mail and it's like, vote for me. And then it's a picture of them and their family and their dog, and then like nothing about their policy because people don't care. It's offensive to me. I cannot stand it. I like when I look at politicians, I look into their policy. I don't really care who they are as a person. Like I'd like them to be a good person. I'd like them to be like charismatic or whatever, but I don't need that. I need them to have good policy and have backing behind it as to how they're going to implement it.
Yeah, the
And
double
I agree.
standard is absurd too. That like Kamala Harris has had to like pump policy out while Trump just like can't explain any of the two proposals he does have.
Because she's a black woman, she has to doubly prove that she is qualified because she's not a white man. People will vote straight for a white man just because he's a charismatic white man. But if you're a black woman running, you have to prove that you know everything. And if you make one single mistake, that's held against you forever. Whereas Trump can just spout whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and nobody cares because he's a charismatic white man.
And that's even if they'll accept, the fact that, I mean, like, the fact that people were arguing as to whether Harris was black to begin with is, like, just another. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to never have to hear or speak the name Donald Trump ever again.
Oh my
Hey
god.
man, 2028 is just around the corner.
Do not put
I
that
don't know
in
if he's
the
gonna make it
universe.
to
Do
2028.
not, right, that man,
Yeah, I
How old is he now?
78.
ancient. Like
Yeah.
in
Oh my
the
god.
Last Crusade, right? That scene where the American Nazi picks the wrong Grail and like immediately ages into dust. That's how close to the end this guy is.
Yeah,
I hope
Yeah.
so.
There's just no
But-
other explanation for it. He's old. He's old. He's not going to make it another 4 years. Like, even if he won, JD Vance is going to be president by the end of that term.
yeah,
There's
who I genuinely
no
think would be
way
worse.
that goes any way else, and that's infinitely worse. Infinitely worse. And I guess that's sort of the issue. I mean, like, in my mind, there is only one option tomorrow, and that is Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I mean, if you look
Yeah,
at the Green
absolutely.
Party, right? Because I have a bone to pick with the Green Party. I think the fact that I have a bone to pick
No,
with Jill
I'm with you.
Stein. I think the fact that the Green Party only ever runs for president. They don't run, congressional races. They don't run they do
Senate
run
races.
some local offices, but like, let's be honest with
Don't they have
ourselves.
like 3 mayors across the whole country though?
Across the whole country. The Green Party is not interested in governing. They're not interested in providing a viable alternative for leftists in the United States. They are interested in working to get Donald Trump elected. Now, that might not be true for every member of the Green Party, but for Jill Stein, that certainly is, because at the end of the day, and I will say this full-throatedly, Jill Stein is a Russian asset. No, I mean, like, look,
No,
Jill Stein's, investments are public knowledge, and it's oil and gas companies and defense contractors.
Mhm.
And while I've always been somebody who's like, get your bag, whatever. If you're running
if you're running
vehemently
for
against,
office and you have those kind of investments,
right, and to, I mean, like, her presidential candidate advocated for an abortion ban.
Mhm.
These people are not leftists. They
Yeah.
are simply they are simply, they are Russian assets who have hijacked one of alternatives to the Democratic Party with the express intent of electing Donald Trump and sowing as much division as possible. So I'm begging you, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about voting for the Green Party, understand, and it's okay, we've all fallen for scams before. But understand, a vote for the Green Party is falling for a scam. It's falling for a false promise in something better, because the Green Party is not that. They never tried to be that. They only want to make it so that Harris's path to victory is so much more narrow. And look, I get, like, if you don't want to vote for Harris because of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Like, I understand that. Like, we all have lines we don't want to cross.
So I was going to ask about that. How do you guys feel about people sitting out because of the genocide in Gaza?
I think
I mean, I have a lot of sympathy for those people. I think that what's happening right now is, I mean, it's one of the most horrific things I've ever seen in my lifetime. I think it's one of the biggest tragedies of our generation. And I think Joe Biden is a genocidal warmonger. I don't see how Trump getting elected changes any of that.
I mean, Donald
I
Trump
don't see how. Yeah, I mean, he wants to make it worse.
Donald Trump also wants to, deport tens of thousands
He wants to
of
deport
people.
Yeah, he's not gonna make. He's gonna bring that shit here. He wants
Absolutely.
Netanyahu to annex the West Bank and Gaza.
Absolutely.
It's atrocious that these are two options, especially in
Mhm.
regards to foreign policy. But this is what it is, and Trump. Then that is just one issue that Trump is going to. I mean, like that's just one of the reasons that Trump is going to inflict unimaginable harm upon the world.
I mean, because the promise of Donald Trump is more genocides, different genocides
Yeah,
committed here on our soil. He wants to go against his political enemies. He wants to go against immigrants. He wants to go after Native people. He wants to go after a
he wants to
bunch
go
of
against Muslim people. He
trans
wants,
people. Right. He
yeah,
wants to go there. If there is a marginalized group you can think of, at some point, Donald Trump wants to go after. That's not
Absolutely.
hyperbole. That's not fear mongering. That is the plain and simple truth. And
that's
voting
what he
again,
said.
not it's because it's his words. And why would you not believe him? And I
Mhm.
think
Yeah, he's the guy
ultimately,
that speaks. He's the guy that speaks his mind, right?
because he literally
When
can't
he
stop
tells you who he is, believe him.
right. And he's telling you that if we go down that road, this country is going to be a much, much darker, desolate place. And honestly, at this point, not voting against him is being complicit in it happening. If you have the
Absolutely. I
ability to vote
completely
and
agree.
you refuse to, or you refuse to vote for the only viable path to stop him, then you're part of the problem. And if you live in a state where Harris has this safely, there's still the House, the Senate. These institutions need to be cleaned out of the MAGA Republicans, or we're going to keep pushing this issue down the road further and further. You want a solution to climate change? The Republicans aren't going to deliver that.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the last cycle that we can actually make any kind of meaning. Like, I think the plan is fucked if
I think
This
it's
is
been fucked.
Trump doesn't
it.
win this. It's been fucked, but
The
like,
degrees to which it is though is where we're at,
Exactly. We
and
can
like you know
stop
there
accelerating it.
exactly, and there have been there's been in lighter news and better news there has been you know um there was been advancements in carbon capture technology. It shouldn't
Mhm.
be what we're putting all our eggs in, but it's one of many tools that we have at our disposal to combat and reverse the effects of climate change as much as possible. I know we can't go back to the world of 100 years ago. I get that. But there are things that we can do, and there's research being done and technologies being developed, and all of that goes away. We lose that. We
Absolutely.
lose that if Donald Trump, if the Republicans take control of our government. We lose that. We lose any fighting chance we had.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say with obviously my opinion on people sitting out with the Gaza thing is the same as you guys. I agree what's happening in Palestine is a genocide. It's been an apartheid for a long time. It's unacceptable conditions. I'm disgusted that the Democratic Party is supporting it and supporting Israel, but those are our choices. Like, we only have two choices. They suck. I don't want, they both support Israel. We have a small chance of a president who's going to change her mind or at least change her outgoing position and try at least a little
yeah.
more than Trump.
And every day when after Kamala Harris gets elected, I hope that there are pro-Palestinian protesters outside the White House every single day.
Absolutely. I
Right,
think there
right.
should be
It's
something done
just
about this, but at this point, these are our choices. And if you don't
it's
vote,
damage
you're
control.
allowing Trump to not only continue the genocide in Palestine, but create, like you guys said, genocide in America. He wants to round up immigrants. He wants to take people, mass deportation. That's not going to end without violence. I don't believe
He wants
that.
to
Right.
imprison liberals too.
I
Yeah,
mean,
he wants to imprison anyone who doesn't agree with him.
because we have historical precedents for this. The Nazis, when they begin, rounding up Jewish people. It was originally for mass deportations. That was
Yeah.
the plan. That's how that plan started. And then they realized that there were simply too many people to deport, so they decided to start putting them in camps. And then they were like, okay, these camps can be used to put people to work. So they started doing that. And you can see the escalation
Hmm.
from that to the death camps. That is the path that we are on. That is the path we will continue going on, and to believe that it can't happen here is
Naive.
juvenile. It's naive. You'd have to be kidding yourself to believe that that it can't happen here, because it can, and it will.
Historians have been warning us about this since Trump started running. Historians have been saying his rhetoric is way too similar to past historical events that have ended in these mass genocides. And it just keeps escalating more and more and more. And people refuse to see that. I understand back in 2016 when it was a little more tame, people would be like, no, this can't lead to that. But it keeps escalating. It would be stupid not to believe that it will continue to escalate.
And this is our last opportunity to do something about this peacefully. This is it. This is the end of the line.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you can either be on the side of it that did something about it, or you can be one of those bystanders that when we read about it in history we ask, why didn't they do anything about it? Why did they let this How could they have let this happen? That's where we're at,
Absolutely.
people. That is where we're at. There's no more excuses. No more waving it away. This is where we're at now, and it's do or we lose. And we can't afford to lose, because there are so much is at stake. Like what Slade was saying about hoping that every day there would be Palestinian protesters. Under a Harris administration, that would still be legal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've seen the escalation of violence with protests under Trump and how he handles protests and how he supports violence against peaceful protests.
Exactly. We know exactly how that's going to end, because it's only
He's
going to
shown
get
us.
worse. He's going to be emboldened.
He's shown us who he's going to be. He now has people surrounding him who know what they're able to do, who can see, okay, we're able to push this even further. We saw what he was able to do in 2016, and now there are less people who are willing to criticize him. He's gotten rid of all the people who are willing to say, maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
Right. There was a great podcast, podcast. It was an essay, but in podcast form, by Ezra Klein with the New York Times, where he was talking about the various members of the Trump administration who are now actively condemning him,
Hmm.
that were stopping Donald Trump from becoming a fascist dictator. It's Those people are gone now. Everybody has been replaced by sycophants who will do exactly what he says, whatever he asks of them. Losing again this time is the end, and it's not hyperbole, it's not fear mongering, it is what it is. We are all, I mean, we all here because we all study politics academically. We all have been internally talking about, for the last few years, about the alarm bells that have been going off about how this, if it happens again, if he wins again, it's going to be over. And we're here and we're standing at the precipice, and we're telling you right now that if he wins, it's over. There's no going back.
He's told us what he's going to do. He said, if you vote for me this time, you're never going to have to vote again. What do you think that means?
It means
I just
exactly what he says it means. And we know that, and
exactly.
we understand that, and we need you, dear listener, to understand that.
Please
Please,
understand
if you
that.
do anything,
If you don't
it's
believe us, do your own research. Look at what he says. He says these things directly. Listen to some, like Harris said, listen to some of his rallies. It's disgusting, some of the things him and the people he allows on stage say. And then afterwards, once there's backlash, he says, oh, we don't actually support what they said, which is ridiculous because they put the people up there. They looked over what they had to say, put it in the
the
um
teleprompter.
yeah, exactly. Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah. Well,
It's a
hey,
lot.
I wanna put some hopium into this conversation
Yes.
As we come to
because
a close here.
I think things are looking good, and the Trump campaign has been horrible, like
Mhm.
inexplicably bad,
They're
almost.
just
Like just that
objectively
last
running
week,
a bad campaign.
just that last week, that Madison Square Garden rally was, I mean, just a hate-filled, racist
Yeah.
mess, and I think it already has had an effect. I saw a poll that said that like the Puerto Rican vote has swung 9 points towards Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania,
And
which is
it's
huge.
kind of funny if you look at the distribution of Puerto Ricans in the United States. It's the swing states.
They're in
They live
the
in the
yeah,
swing states,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
and my God, if the Puerto Ricans who are American citizens, by the way, if you don't know that already, um, they're good. They might end up saving this country. Let's
Yeah,
hope.
it's kind of funny. I mean, Kill Tony might have actually just killed the Trump campaign
Oh, I hope so. It
with
was
that
so
one.
bad. Just
But
objectively.
I want to talk about her path to victory just real quick
Yes.
for both these candidates. She's leading in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. That's all she needs to get to 270. We get those 3 states, we win. North Carolina and Georgia are both in play for this. If either of them go to Kamala Harris, I think she wins. North Carolina has Mark Robinson on the ballot, who's the black Nazi, who's, this
Boy,
raging porn addict who is not going to be elected governor. And I think he might bring the whole state down with him. Those 2 states tend to vote together. Obviously, Mark Robinson is an outlier, but I think, if Kamala can get one of them, there's a decent chance she gets the other. That locks up the election. I think Arizona can easily go to Kamala Harris. I think people are, I don't know, leaning towards it going to Trump, but you have Carrie Lake on the ballot there too, who's another psycho. These people are not popular. There's so many more paths to victory for Kamala Harris than there are for Trump.
I
Yes.
think even like I believe the polls have Ted Cruz losing. I do in Texas. I do not believe that they're. I find it hard to imagine there are a whole lot of split ticket voters. Texas isn't a swing state currently. It's trending that way, but it isn't currently, so people haven't been watching that state. I think, and this is probably pure hopium, but I do believe in my heart of hearts that there is a possibility, that Texas might be a bit closer than it's ever been before. And
I
if I
think
would,
it'll be close. I think it'll be close. I think Ted Cruz could definitely lose.
if
That
Ted
alone would
Cruz
make
loses,
me super happy.
right, then that's like that would be a great victory for America. The end of
Yeah.
Ted Cruz's senatorial career. But I think there's a chance. It's a very incredibly statistically small chance. But I think Texas could potentially be like if in the off chance that Harris wins Texas, it's over. Tomorrow it's over.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from losing Texas. And I think that Texas could potentially be in play. I know there are some people who think that's way too premature. It's way too early to say that. I don't know. I'm not from Texas, but I have an inkling of an idea that maybe, just maybe, that state might be in play.
Yeah,
I
and
hope
also
so.
like if Iowa is in play too, like that's huge too. I mean, I like there's a chance that goes to Kamala Harris too. If she gets Iowa, then she only needs Arizona and Nevada, and then that's a major bundle. Any of these things happening would be a win for Kamala Harris. Trump would
Mhm.
need to lock up one of the blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and then also go on to win North Carolina and Georgia to lock this up. And I think that's a low probability,
Yeah, yeah.
especially because Kamala Harris can lose one of those states and still win the presidency. Like there's multiple paths for that happening. So those are the states to keep an eye on: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona, and
Mhm.
Iowa now.
And of course we will be here Wednesday night to cover everything and to go over
Yes.
how everything went down. And, We can hope, we can pray, but at the end of the day, get out, go vote. You have no excuse
Please.
to not. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear any excuses. You're gonna go out. You're gonna vote. You're gonna vote like this might be the last time you have the right to do so, because if it goes a
Mhm.
certain way, who knows?
Well, with all the stress going on with this, if you guys don't have anything more to add, if you do, feel free to add. But if you don't, how do you guys de-stress from this? How do you kind of separate yourself from all of the stress and anxiety of this upcoming election?
So I mean, I could tell you what I told you guys before we went on, but I feel like that's incredibly depressing. I know it was nice for you, Emma, but Emma, you're an interesting person. So I'm going to spare our listeners of that. Um, Listen, tomorrow's going to be a long night. The election, there's a high likelihood that things won't be clear tomorrow as to how it's going to go. So go vote, turn off everything, and just
Mhm.
grab a book, play some video games, do something with yourself so that you're not anxiously waiting the results. That's our job. We're gonna do that for you. Don't worry about it. We got
Exactly.
you
Don't
covered.
worry about it. We got you.
We got you
I
covered.
know what I know what's on my docket is watching all the animated DC movies because I've
Nice.
seen very few of them, but my goal is to watch like 10 of them in the next like month and a half.
Also, lots of movies helps me.
Bubble bath and some wine, a classic.
Yes, baths are great.
I'm gonna be playing some nice video games before the Republicans take.
I like walks outside, try and just enjoy nature, look at the trees, feel the grass, think about the world in its form rather than politically.
That's a beautiful thought. Actually, I like that. I like that. We're gonna get through this together, guys. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Well,
We're gonna
regardless, we'll be here. We'll
we'll
be
be here.
here for you. We'll be here next week. We'll probably be here the week after. We got you.
Week after that, who knows?
Right.
Exactly.
No, we'll be here. We'll be here. We'll be here. We'll be here. We're gonna cover
We'll
you
be
through
here as long as no one gets sick again.
as long as nobody gets sick again. Yeah, that was. We apologize for the hiatus. Everybody was either traveling or kept getting sick, and it was like a nightmare to schedule. Listen, we'll be here to cover the Harris administration and to keep them
Yes.
on track. Don't you worry. We'll do that. We just need to get through. We need to get through tomorrow night.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for me.
Thank you guys all for listening. Please, please, please vote. Your vote matters.
If
And
you
chill
don't vote
out
as
once
the
you
top,
vote.
I will cry so hard. It'll be the ugliest thing you've ever seen. And I will live stream. I will live stream, like those old environmental ads with the fake Indian, the guy who was actually Italian pretending to
Yeah.
be Iron Eyes Cody. I'm going to be doing that. It's going to be sad. It's going to be sad. That's what I'm going to do. So, if you don't vote, that's what you're in for. And let me tell you, it's ugly. It's ugly. I'm an ugly crier. Just ask my mom.
We will see you guys on Wednesday.
And yep, have a good night, everybody. Get some
Have a good
rest.
night. Thank you for listening.
Blue
And
Wave 2024.
let's go. Let's
I think
go.
it's a real
Let's
possibility,
it's
and
a
then we get to laugh
possibility
at Trump supporters
for the rest of time,
for
for
the
the
rest
rest of
of
our
time.
lives. And honestly, what's you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Good night, and God bless us all.
Stay sane.